The wheelchair was gone. Maya stared at the empty spot where she'd left it, her breath catching. The morning sun slanted through the academy's glass atrium, illuminating nothing but polished floor. Around her, students flowed toward their classes, humans, Valkyrie with their crystalline skin, towering Drex with their scaled limbs. None of them met her eyes. She gripped her crutches harder, knuckles white. The Central Galactic Academy sprawled across 3 kilometers. Her first class was on the opposite end of the complex. "Looking for something?" The voice dripped fall sweetness. Maya turned. Varric stood behind her, flanked by 2 other Valkyrie. Their bodies glittered like cut diamonds, refracting light into rainbow shards. Beautiful. Untouchable. Cruel. "Where is it?" Maya kept her voice steady. "Where is what?" Varric tilted her head, the gesture mockingly innocent. "I saw a mobility device in the recycling center this morning. Looked broken. Did someone forget to file proper equipment maintenance forms?" The recycling center was in the sublevels. Maya would never reach it in time, even if the wheelchair wasn't already compacted into a cube of scrap metal. "That's destruction of personal property." Maya's hand shook on the crutches. "I'll report." "Report what?" "That you failed to maintain Academy property? That you left equipment unsecured in a public space?" Varric leaned closer. "Humans already have the lowest acceptance scores. Do you really want to give them another reason to send you back to your little backwater planet?" The bell chimed. 3 minutes until class started. Professor Dakin didn't accept tardiness, didn't accept excuses, didn't accept anything but perfection. One more infraction and Maya would fail interspecies protocol. Fail the class, fail the semester, lose her scholarship, prove every counselor right who'd voted against admitting humans to the academy. Varric and her friends glided away, their laughter echoing off marble walls. Maya looked down at her legs. They'd been crushed in the transport accident that killed her parents. 18 months of surgery, therapy, learning to walk again with braces and crutches for short distances. The wheelchair wasn't a convenience. It was survival. 3 kilometers. 3 minutes. She took one step. Pain shot through her hips. Another step. Her vision blurred at the edges. "Maya?" The voice was quiet, human familiar. She turned. Kai stood there, his academy uniform crisp despite the early hour. He was tall for a human, built solid from growing up on a high-gravity colony world. His dark eyes assessed the situation in seconds. "Varric?" he asked. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Kai didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and swept her into his arms, one arm under her knees, one supporting her back. The crutches clattered to the floor. "What are you? We have 2 minutes," Kai said. "Tell me which building." "Kai, you can't. I can run 3 kilometers in 8 minutes on my home world. This is standard gravity." "Which building?" "North Wing, 4th floor, but—" He was already moving. Students scattered as Kai ran. He didn't slow for corners, his boots striking the floor in steady rhythm. Maya clutched his shoulders, feeling the power in his stride, the determination in every step. Around them, conversation stopped. Heads turned. A Valkyrie gasped. A Drex moved aside, its massive form pressing against the wall. They passed through the central courtyard, where the fountain of first contact sparkled in the sun. Past the Hall of Species where flags from 100 worlds hung motionless in climate-controlled air. Through corridors lined with windows looking out on the Academy's gardens. Kai's breathing never changed. Steady. Controlled. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his legs absorbing the impact without breaking stride. 4th floor. North Wing. The hallway stretched before them. "There!" Maya pointed. "Room 447. The bell chimed its final warning. 30 seconds. Kai ran faster. They burst through the door as the bell's echo faded. The classroom fell silent. 60 students turned to stare. At the front of the room, Professor Dakin, a Centauri with 4 arms and skin like burnished copper, looked up from his data pad. Kai carried Maya to her seat, set her down with infinite gentleness, then stood at attention. "Cadet Nakamura." Professor Dakin's voice was neutral, unreadable. "Explain." "Medical emergency, sir. Cadet Chen's mobility device was damaged. I provided assistance. You ran through the academy carrying another student." "Yes, sir." "There are protocols for requesting emergency transport. The request would have taken 4 minutes to process. We had 2 minutes to reach class." The professor's secondary arms folded across his chest. "And you determined this violation of conduct codes was necessary?" "I determined that Cadet Chen's attendance was necessary, sir. She maintains perfect marks in this class. Missing today's examination would have damaged her academic standing." Silence stretched. Maya could feel every eye in the room, could sense the weight of judgment from species that had mastered space travel while humans were still burning coal. They were waiting for Professor Dakin to make an example, to show that human emotion and human impulse had no place in the disciplined order of the Galactic Council. Professor Dakin set down his data pad. "Cadet Chen, are you injured?" "No, sir." "Can you complete today's examination?" "Yes, sir." "Then we will proceed." He looked at Kai. "Take your seat, Cadet Nakamura. We will discuss this further after class." Kai nodded and moved to his desk. As he passed Varix's seat, the Valkyrie's expression was unreadable, her crystalline features refracting light into fractured colors. The examination began. Maya forced herself to focus on the questions about trade protocols and diplomatic hierarchy, but her hands still trembled. Not from pain. From the feeling of being carried, of being helped without question, of someone risking everything because it was right. Across the room, Kai worked through his tests with the same steady focus he'd shown in that run through the academy. As if carrying her had been nothing. As if defying protocols for a friend was simply what humans did. Outside the classroom windows, a ship descended toward the landing platforms. Its hull bore the seal of the Threxian Queendom, a spiral of stars around a golden crown. The royal inspection was scheduled for today. Maya had forgotten. The Threxian Queen would tour the academy, observe classes, evaluate whether the Council's newest education initiative was worth continued funding. Whether species like humans, barely a century into space travel, deserved a place among the stars. Maya looked down at her test and kept writing. Whatever happened next, she would be ready. The examination ended. Students filed out, their conversations muted, furtive glances cast back at Maya and Kai. Professor Dakin stood at his desk, making notes on his data pad. He didn't look up as the last students left. "Cadet Nakamura. Cadet Chen. Remain." The door closed. Silence filled the room like water. "I need to understand what happened this morning," Professor Dakin said. "The complete truth." Maya opened her mouth, but Kai spoke first. "My actions are not Cadet Chen's responsibility, sir. Any violation, I asked for truth, not deflection." The professor's 4 eyes focused on Maya. "What happened to your wheelchair?" Maya's throat tightened. To accuse Varix without proof would sound like excuse-making, like the weak trying to blame the strong. The Academy valued evidence, documentation, proof. She had none. "It was taken," she said quietly. "I don't know by whom. You don't know or you won't say. I know what I saw. I cannot prove what I know." Professor Dakin was quiet for a long moment. "In 6 months at this academy, you have never been late, never made an excuse, never requested special accommodation despite your injury. Cadet Nakamura has no disciplinary record, no history of impulsive behavior. Yet this morning he chose to violate conduct codes by carrying you through the academy in front of hundreds of witnesses. He was helping me, sir. Help can be requested through proper channels. Proper channels take time. I didn't have time. There is always time for protocol, Cadet. That is what this academy teaches. Professor Dakin set down his data pad. But protocol serves purpose, not ego. When protocol fails its purpose, it must be questioned. Maya blinked. She hadn't expected that. Someone took your mobility device knowing it would make you late, hoping you would fail, expecting no one would help you. The professor's voice remained calm, but something cold entered his tone. That is not a violation of protocol. That is an attack on the principle that every species, every individual, deserves equal opportunity to prove their worth. He turned to Kai. Your actions were reckless and dramatic. They also revealed something the Council needs to understand about humans. You do not abandon your own, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs us, sir, Kai said. Professor Dakin's expression shifted, something that might have been approval. The royal inspection begins in 1 hour. Her Majesty Queen Sithra of the Threxian Dominion will observe several classes, including mine. You will both attend. You will comport yourselves with dignity. And, Cadet Shin, he picked up a data pad and made a notation. I am filing a formal request for Academy security to investigate the disappearance of your mobility device. Destruction of another student's property is grounds for expulsion. Sir, I don't want. This is not about what you want. It is about what is right. He looked at them both. Dismissed. Be back here in 50 minutes. They left the classroom in silence. The hallway was empty now. Classes in session behind closed doors. Maya's crutches clicked against the floor. You didn't have to do that, she said. Yes, I did. Kai, if they expel you, they won't. I was on time. You were on time. We broke no rules that matter. You broke the conduct code. The conduct code says we shouldn't run in the hallways or create disruptions. It doesn't say we should let our friends suffer. Kai stopped walking and turned to face her. My mother is a mining engineer. When I was 8, there was a tunnel collapse on Kepler 442b. 17 workers trapped. The safety protocol said to wait for rescue teams, to follow evacuation procedures, to let the professionals handle it. What did she do? She went in anyway. Pulled out 12 people before the tunnel collapsed completely. They gave her a medal and a reprimand. Kai smiled slightly. She keeps both on her desk. Says they remind her that rules matter, but people matter more. Maya felt her eyes sting. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to face a Threxian queen. They made their way to the medical center where Maya kept her spare wheelchair. The attendant, a gentle Quarian with too many limbs, expressed concern and confusion in equal measure. Yes, her primary chair had been brought to recycling. No, there was no record of who had delivered it. Yes, it had already been processed. Maya transferred to her spare chair, an older model with less responsive controls. It would do. When they returned to Professor Dakin's classroom, the space had been transformed. Extra seating arranged along the walls. Academy officials in formal dress. Security officers in their distinctive silver armor. And at the room center, a throne-like chair carved from what looked like a single massive crystal. The Queen will sit there, Professor Dakin explained. She will observe our discussion of the Ketheri Accords, the treaty that established shared governance of contested systems. This is your opportunity to demonstrate that humans understand diplomacy, compromise, and peaceful coexistence. No pressure, Kai muttered. Other students filed in, taking their seats with unusual precision. Varix entered with her friends, saw Maya in her wheelchair, and her crystalline features remained perfectly composed. But her eyes flickered toward the door toward escape. A chime sounded through the academy. All conversation ceased. The door opened. Queen Sithra entered, and Maya understood immediately why the Threxian Dominion commanded respect across 100 systems. She stood 3 meters tall, her body covered in interlocking plates of deep purple chitin. 6 arms, each ending in delicate, precise hands. A crown of bone that grew naturally from her skull, twisted into elegant spires. Eyes that held intelligence older than human civilization. Behind her came the royal guard, 4 warriors in armor that seemed to absorb light, carrying weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Everyone stood. Everyone except Maya, whose wheelchair couldn't rise. She felt suddenly terribly visible. The queen's eyes found her immediately. Held her gaze for a moment that stretched like hours. Then moved on. "Be seated," Queen Sithra said. Her voice resonated like deep bells. The class began. Professor Dakin posed questions about treaty negotiations, about balancing competing interests, about finding peace between species with fundamentally different needs. Students answered with rehearsed precision, their responses careful and diplomatic. Maya listened, but part of her mind was elsewhere. The queen sat motionless on her crystal throne, her 6 hands folded in her lap. She said nothing, asked nothing, simply watched with those ancient eyes. Halfway through the class, Professor Dakin turned to Maya. "Cadet Shin, the Cathari Accords required the Threxian Dominion to cede 3 systems despite having superior military force. Explain why Queen Sithra's predecessor agreed to these terms." Maya's mouth went dry. Every eye in the room turned to her, including the queen's. "Because strength without wisdom is just violence," Maya said slowly. "The Threxians could have taken those systems by force. But force creates resentment. Resentment creates rebellion. Rebellion creates endless war. The Accords traded immediate power for lasting peace. Some would call that weakness," Professor Dakin said. "Some would be wrong." Maya met the queen's eyes. "True strength is knowing when not to use your power. Anyone can destroy. It takes wisdom to build." Silence. Then, Queen Sithra's mandibles moved in what might have been a smile. "An interesting perspective from such a young species," the queen said. "Tell me, young human, have your people learned this lesson? You have been spacefaring for barely a century. You have power now, ships and weapons and influence. How do you choose to use it?" Maya thought of Kai running through the academy, risking punishment to help a friend. Of her parents, who had died bringing medical supplies to a colony world suffering from plague. Of 100 stories from Earth's history, of humans helping, humans protecting, humans choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. "We're still learning," Maya said honestly. "We make mistakes. But we keep trying to do better. That's all anyone can do. Trying is not the same as succeeding. No. But giving up guarantees failure." The queen rose from her throne. The room held its breath. "This human speaks wisdom beyond her years," Queen Sithra said. "I would hear more. Cadet Shin, join me for a walk in the gardens after this class concludes." It wasn't a request. "Yes, Your Majesty." The class ended. Students filed out in silence. Maya moved toward the door, Kai falling into step beside her without a word. They had faced Varix's cruelty, Professor Dakin's judgment, and now they would face a queen whose word could end human participation in the academy with a single declaration. Outside the classroom, the queen waited with her guards. Up close, she was even more imposing, her shadow swallowing Maya's wheelchair, her presence filling the corridor like gravity. "Walk with me," Queen Sithra said. "Only the young human. The rest leave us." The royal guard stiffened. One step forward. Your Majesty, protocols require. I am aware of protocols, Captain. I am also aware that I give the orders. The Queen's tone allowed no argument. Stay beyond hearing distance. This conversation is private. The guards exchanged glances but obeyed, forming a perimeter 20 meters back. Academy officials scattered like leaves. Kai hesitated, looking at Maya. She nodded. He left. The Queen moved toward the gardens, her gait smooth despite her size. Maya followed, her wheelchair whirring softly. They walked in silence through the atrium, past the fountain, into the gardens where alien flowers bloomed in impossible colors. You were late to class this morning, the Queen said finally. Yet you arrived precisely on time. How? Maya's hands tightened on the wheelchair controls. Lie, and the Queen would know. Tell the truth, and Kai might face consequences beyond a reprimand. A friend helped me, Maya said, by carrying you through the entire academy, breaking protocols to ensure your attendance. Yes, Your Majesty. Why were you late? What happened to your primary mobility device? The question was gentle, but Maya heard the steel beneath it. This was a queen who had ruled for 200 years, who had navigated politics that would crush lesser minds. She already knew the answer. She wanted to hear Maya say it. It was taken, hidden or destroyed. I believe by someone who wanted me to fail. You believe, but do not know? I know. I cannot prove. And yet you do not name this person? Accusations without evidence are just noise, Your Majesty. Evidence will come. Truth always does. The Queen made a sound that might have been approval. They reached a bench carved from living wood that had been shaped, not cut. The Queen sat, gesturing for Maya to position her wheelchair beside her. I was not always a queen, Cythera said. When I was young, barely past my first molt, I was small for a Threxian. Weak by our standards. My clutchmates mocked me, challenged me, tried to drive me from our hive. They believed strength was only measured in size and force. She extended one of her 6 hands, studying it in the sunlight. I learned to use my mind instead of my body, to think rather than fight, to plan where others simply struck. When I took the crown, it was not through combat but through wisdom. And every day since, someone has questioned whether I deserve to rule, whether my way is weakness. It's not, Maya said quietly. Anyone who thinks that is a fool. The Queen laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Such certainty from one so young. Why are you here, Cadetchen? Why did your people send you to this academy? To learn. To prove we can coexist with other species. To show that humans belong among the stars. And is that what you believe? That you belong? Maya thought of the stares, the whispered comments, the counselors who had voted against human admission, of Varix's cruelty and the casual dismissal from species that saw humans as primitive, violent, too young to matter. I believe we have the right to try, Maya said. We don't know everything. We're young and we make mistakes. But we learn fast, we adapt, and we don't give up. That has to count for something. It counts for much. The Queen's voice softened. Do you know why I am here today? Not the official reason. The real one? Maya shook her head. 3 months ago, the Galactic Council proposed eliminating the Human Integration Initiative. They argued that your species is too volatile, too emotional, too unpredictable to be trusted with advanced technology and political influence. The vote was scheduled for today. I delayed it by insisting on this inspection. Maya's breath stopped. Why? Because I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to know if humans are truly as dangerous as the Council fears, or if they are something else entirely. Queen Cythera looked at Maya directly. This morning, I watched a human boy run through this academy carrying a girl who could not walk. He did not ask permission. He did not file the proper forms. He simply acted because his friend needed help. That's just who Kai is. No, that is who humans are. Your entire species has this strange compulsion to help, to protect, to sacrifice for others even when there is no logical benefit. The Queen's mandibles moved in that almost smile again. It terrifies the Council. They do not understand acting without calculated gain. They see your compassion as unpredictability, your loyalty as potential threat. And what do you see? I see a species that chooses strength through connection rather than domination. I see what the galaxy could become if we let it. Queen Sifra stood, her full height casting Maya in shadow. The vote will proceed tomorrow. I will recommend continued human participation in the Academy and full integration into the Galactic Council. Relief flooded through Maya so suddenly she felt dizzy. Thank you, Your Majesty. Do not thank me yet. My recommendation is not a guarantee. Other counselors have strong opinions. But I will tell them what I witnessed today, that humans understand what many ancient species have forgotten. That true civilization is measured not by technology or military might, but by how we treat those who need help. The Queen turned to leave, then paused. There is one more thing. The student who took your mobility device, you say you have no proof? No, Your Majesty. Then it is fortunate I brought my own observers. Queen Sifra gestured, and one of her guards approached, holding a data pad. My security team reviews all Academy surveillance during inspections. For safety purposes, you understand. We happened to notice something interesting in the recordings from early this morning. She took the data pad and turned it toward Maya. The screen showed the atrium in pre-dawn light. Varix and her two friends entering the frame. Varix pointing at Maya's wheelchair. The three of them carrying it away toward the recycling center. Timestamps, visual confirmation, 3 witnesses, the Queen said. I believe that constitutes proof. My guard captain will deliver this to your Academy administration with a formal request for investigation. What happens next is Academy business, not mine. But I suspect the student in question will find expulsion preferable to the diplomatic incident her actions could cause. Maya stared at the screen, watching Varix's casual cruelty captured in perfect clarity. Justice, delivered by a queen who missed nothing. Why are you doing this? Maya asked. Why help me? Because 70 years ago, when I was newly crowned and facing my first diplomatic crisis, a human ambassador did something no other species had done. She looked at me, young, inexperienced, surrounded by counselors who doubted me, and she said, "You've got this." The Queen's voice held something like fondness. 3 words. No political calculation. Just belief in a stranger. I have never forgotten. Who was she? Her name was Chin Mei Lin. She is retired now, living on Earth. I believe she is your grandmother. The world tilted. Maya's grandmother had been an ambassador, yes, but she had never spoken of meeting the Threxian Queen. Had never mentioned changing the course of galactic politics with 3 simple words. She never told me. She would not. Humans have another strange quality. You do extraordinary things and, then, forget to mention them. As if kindness requires no acknowledgement. Queen Sifra handed the data pad to her guard. I am repaying an old debt, Cadet Shin. Help another when you can. That is how we change the galaxy, one act of courage at a time. The Queen walked away, her guards falling into formation around her. Maya sat in her wheelchair, watching the most powerful being in the Galactic Council disappear into the Academy's marble corridors. She looked down at her hands, still shaking slightly. Her grandmother had helped a young queen. Kai had helped her. The Queen had helped them both. Ripples spreading across decades, across species, across the vast darkness of space. Connection, compassion, courage. Maybe that was what humanity had to offer the stars. Maya turned her wheelchair and headed toward the administrative building. She had a report to file, evidence to submit, justice to pursue. But first, she needed to find Kai and tell him that everything, all of it, the risk and the running and the defiance of protocol, had mattered. She found him in the courtyard, sitting by the fountain, staring at the water without seeing it. He looked up as she approached. "Well?" he asked. "We're staying. Humans stay in the Academy, in the Council, in the stars. The Queen is recommending full integration." Kai's eyes widened. "Because of us? Because of you. Because you ran. Because you didn't ask permission or wait for protocols. Because you saw someone who needed help and you helped." Maya moved closer. "The Queen said humans terrify the Council because we act on compassion instead of calculation. She thinks that's exactly what the galaxy needs." "Huh?" Kai leaned back, processing. "We terrify them by being nice. That's new. Not nice. Loyal. Brave. Willing to risk everything for each other." Maya smiled. "Turns out that's pretty threatening when you're used to species who only help when there's profit involved." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the fountain's water arc and fall, constant as heartbeat. "What happens to Varix?" Kai asked. "The Queen gave Academy administration surveillance footage. Proof of what she did. There will be consequences." "Good. Kai, thank you. Not just for this morning. For being exactly who you are. For showing the galaxy what humans can be." He looked at her, and his expression was serious. "I didn't do anything special, Maya. I just did what anyone should do. What humans do. We look out for each other. That's not extraordinary. That's just baseline decency. That's what makes it extraordinary," Maya said. "Most species see others as competition or resources or obstacles. We see people. We see worth. Even when we barely know each other, even when helping costs us, we help anyway. That's not baseline. That's exceptional." Kai was quiet for a long moment. "My mother says that's why humanity will either save the galaxy or get completely destroyed by it. We care too much to survive in a universe this cruel. What do you think?" "I think caring is how we survive. I think it's the only thing that matters." He stood, offering her his hand. "Come on. We have advanced diplomacy in 20 minutes, and I want to see Varix's face when she hears about the investigation." They made their way through the Academy together, human and human, friends bound by trust and tested by fire. Around them, other species moved in their orbits, pursuing their goals, following their protocols. But something had shifted. Maya felt it in the way students stepped aside, not with disdain, but with something like respect. In the way a Drex professor nodded as they passed. In the way the Academy itself seemed to acknowledge that humans had earned their place not through force or cunning but through something simpler and stronger. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to carry someone who couldn't walk. Not just physically, but metaphorically. To bear the weight of another's struggle because it was right, because it was necessary, because leaving someone behind was unthinkable. The news spread through the Academy within hours. Varix was called to the administration building. Her friends scattered like startled birds. By evening, official notices appeared on Academy boards. Investigation pending, student suspended, expulsion under consideration. Maya didn't celebrate. She felt only tired relief, the kind that comes after a storm has passed and you realize you survived. She went to the communication center and sent a message to Earth, to her grandmother's small house overlooking the Pacific. "I met Queen Sithra today. She told me what you did for her. You never said you changed galactic history. You never mentioned you were the reason she trusts humans. Why didn't you tell me?" The response came 6 hours later, delayed by the distance between stars. "My dear Maya, I didn't change history. I just saw someone who needed encouragement and gave it. That's not exceptional. That's what we do. The Queen's choices were her own. I just reminded her she could make them. Now stop messaging your old grandmother and go make your own history. Show them what Chens can do. Make me proud. I already am." Maya read the message 3 times, her eyes blurring. Then she saved it, closed the communication terminal, and wheeled herself back to her dormitory through corridors now familiar, now safe, now home. Tomorrow the Queen would return to the Council. Tomorrow the vote would happen. Tomorrow the galaxy would decide if humans belonged among the stars. But tonight, Maya knew the truth that her grandmother had lived, that Kai embodied, that Queen Sithra recognized. Humans belonged anywhere they chose to care, to help, to sacrifice for something larger than themselves. They belonged because they made belonging mean something more than just existing in the same space. They created connection where none existed. They built bridges across the vast darkness between species, between worlds, between souls. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not technology or strength or cunning, but the stubborn insistence that everyone mattered, that no one should be left behind, that carrying each other was not burden but privilege. As Maya prepared for sleep, her spare wheelchair charging in the corner, she thought of Kai's words. "That's not extraordinary. That's just baseline decency." Maybe he was right. Maybe humans weren't special. Maybe they just refused to accept that caring was optional. If that was humanity's flaw, Maya thought, it was one worth keeping. The next morning brought news from the Galactic Council. The vote had concluded. Human integration approved, Academy participation confirmed, full diplomatic status granted. The margin had been narrow, 3 votes, but it was enough. Queen Sithra's recommendation had tipped the balance. Her testimony about a human carrying another human to class, about loyalty and compassion overriding protocol, had swayed the undecided counselors. One act of kindness, witnessed by a queen, changing the trajectory of an entire species. Professor Dakin announced it in class with characteristic restraint. "The council has spoken. Humans remain. I expect this changes nothing about your performance expectations. You are here to learn, not to celebrate. Open your text to chapter 17. But his secondary arms moved in the Senhari gesture of approval, and his eyes held warmth. Kai caught Maya's eye across the classroom and smiled. No words needed. They had done it, not through genius or strength, but through simple decency. Through choosing to help when help was needed. Varix's seat was empty. It would remain empty. Expulsion proceedings had concluded with unusual speed. Destruction of property, harassment, conduct violations. She was being sent home to her family, her academy future erased. Maya felt no triumph. Only the quiet satisfaction of justice delivered without cruelty. After class, as students filed out discussing the council's decision, Kai fell into step beside Maya's wheelchair. "So we saved humanity's place in the galaxy," he said casually. "What do we do for an encore? Pass our finals. Graduate. Maybe avoid any more diplomatic incidents. Where's the fun in that?" They laughed, and the sound echoed through the halls. Human laughter, human joy, human resilience in the face of a universe vast and strange and full of species that still didn't quite understand why humans insisted on helping each other. Let them wonder, Maya thought. Let them question. Eventually, they would learn what Queen Sithra already knew, that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or ships or technology, but in the simple, stubborn refusal to let each other fall. Outside the academy windows, ships descended and ascended in steady rhythm, traders and diplomats and students from 100 worlds. Among them now, officially and permanently, were humans. Young species, yes. Inexperienced, certainly. But welcome, accepted, valued. Because sometimes the galaxy needed species who cared more about people than protocols, who would run through halls carrying those who couldn't walk, who would risk everything for the simple reason that it was right. Humanity had proven its worth not through conquest but through compassion. Not through power but through choosing to help. And in a queen's testimony, in a friend's loyalty, in a grandmother's encouragement given decades past, the pattern repeated. Care creates connection. Connection creates change. Change creates a galaxy where no one has to face their struggles alone. Maya looked at Kai, at the academy spreading around them, at the future opening like a door to infinite possibility. "Thank you," she said again. "For everything. Anytime," Kai replied. "That's what humans do. We carry each other. It's who we are." Yes, Maya thought. It's exactly who we are. And the galaxy, slowly but surely, was learning that humans didn't just belong among the stars. They made the stars better for everyone.